Hello? I don't know if you've ever lost something in your room, something you were certain was just there, but you simply couldn't find it. The disappearance I'm about to tell you about today probably evokes a similar feeling. A medical student and his classmates entered a bar inside a shopping mall and then mysteriously vanished, despite the surveillance cameras monitoring the mall's entrances and exits. The incident subsequently garnered a lot of attention in the United States. It was the disappearance of Brian Shaffer. The case took place in 2006 in Ohio, USA. Ohio is a state in the Midwestern United States. Many consider Columbus to be a typical American city, and the story I will tell you today takes place here. The protagonist of our story is Brian Shaffer, 27 years old. He was a student at Ohio State University and had earned a bachelor's degree in microbiology. He then went on to study at the university's medical school. Brian was not only handsome, but also had a cheerful personality and excelled in his studies. His parents were very proud to have such a son. He also had a younger brother. With a harmonious family life, it could be said that Brian had a bright future ahead of him. But one spring night in 2006, Brian vanished into thin air. So what happened that day, and how did Brian disappear? Let us now turn back the clock to March 31st, 2006. March 31st, 2006. It was a Friday. For Brian and other students, this was a highly anticipated day. It marked the end of the semester and the beginning of spring break. Typically, schools in the U.S. have three major holiday breaks: summer break, winter break, and spring break. Spring break usually falls around March and lasts from 7 to 10 days. That day, Brian's father, Randy Shaffer, came to Columbus to visit his son. In the evening, the two went to a steakhouse for dinner. During the meal, Brian told his father that he wanted to go out for drinks with some friends after dinner. Randy thought that his son was now an adult and needed some personal space. Besides, he had just gone through a stressful exam period, so a little relaxation would be good, and he didn't object. 9:30 p.m. Brian arrived at a bar near campus, located on the second floor of a shopping mall. This is the entrance to the shopping mall. After entering, you can take the escalator to the second floor. Near the escalator on the second floor was the bar he went to. The bar was called Ugly Tuna Saloona. Inside the bar, Brian drank with his close roommate, Clint Florence. The two chatted happily. 9:56 p.m. Brian had a phone call with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner. She attended the same university as Brian, and they had been dating for a year. Their relationship was going well. They had booked a flight to Miami for the following Monday, April 3rd, to enjoy a wonderful spring break there. They had a few short conversations on the phone, and Brian expressed his excitement for their upcoming vacation. Finally, Brian told his girlfriend that he loved her, and the entire call seemed very normal. After the call with his girlfriend, Brian and his close friend decided to go bar hopping. Bar hopping is simply visiting multiple bars in one outing. Afterward, they left the shopping mall together and went to a new location about 2 kilometers away from the previous bar. The new bar was located in the Columbus Arena district. 12 a.m. At midnight, Clint called a friend named Meredith Reed and asked if she wanted to come out for a few drinks. She agreed. 12:30 a.m. Meredith drove to the bar where Brian and Clint were. After some conversation, she drove them back to the original bar. They parked in the first-floor parking lot and then walked together through the main entrance of the shopping mall. 1:15 a.m. The shopping mall's surveillance camera recorded the three of them taking the escalator. The person on the left, leaning on the handrail, was Brian, and his two friends followed behind. They chatted on the escalator. Afterward, all three entered the bar on the second floor to continue drinking. A little while later, Brian went outside, presumably for some fresh air. 1:55 a.m. The camera captured Brian talking to two young women. And then he disappeared from view. That was the last time the surveillance camera recorded an image of Brian. The bar's closing time was 2 a.m. every day, and customers would start leaving a few minutes beforehand. At that time, Clint and Meredith hadn't left yet. They didn't know where Brian had gone. They called him, but he didn't answer. He didn't come back either. So they both got up and searched around. Clint even checked the restrooms, but Brian was nowhere to be found. A little while later, the bar closed. All the customers had left. They thought Brian must be tired and went home early. His apartment was only 2 blocks away from the bar, and it was just a 10-minute walk. 2:09 a.m. After searching without success, the two of them left the bar, and the surveillance camera recorded this as well. Around noon the next day, Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, called his phone, but there was no answer. She called multiple times, but no one picked up. At the time, she only felt slightly strange and thought maybe he's just sleeping late after drinking with friends last night. Later that afternoon, she tried calling him again, but there was still no answer. A day passed, and it was Sunday. She called him again, but the call went straight to voicemail, and no one picked up. At that point, she felt something was wrong and started to worry. Because tomorrow was Monday, they were supposed to go on vacation to Miami together. Why would he suddenly lose contact at this time? Thinking this, she immediately called Brian's father to ask about his situation. He said that he hadn't been able to contact his son since dinner on Friday either. He also comforted Alexis, saying that maybe his son was planning to propose to her during the vacation. And he advised her not to worry too much and to get ready for their vacation tomorrow. The next morning, Monday, April 3, 2006, Alexis arrived at the airport with her luggage. She thought that maybe Brian just wanted some quiet time, and he would definitely be at the airport today. Despite her expectations, Brian never showed up. At this point, she realized that something must have happened to Brian, so she immediately called the police. The police then sent officers to the location where Brian was last seen, the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar. After that, the police investigation officially began. Next, let's review Brian's schedule that evening. 9:30 p.m. Brian and Clint entered the bar. 9:56 p.m. He called his girlfriend. 10 p.m. They left for a new bar. 12 a.m. Clint called Meredith to invite her for drinks. 12:30 a.m. The three returned to the original bar. 1:15 a.m. They entered the bar. 1:55 a.m. Brian was seen at the entrance talking to two girls. 2 a.m. The bar closed. 2:09 a.m. Brian's two friends left. According to two security guards, they vaguely recalled the man returning to the bar after talking to the two women. After investigation, the police found that the two women in the video were complete strangers to Brian and had only casually chatted with him at the entrance. Let's take a look at the area surrounding the bar. This image is from Google Street View in 2017, as the bar closed in 2018. Across from the bar, you can see a movie theater. Next to it is a yellow-painted area with an exit sign. I want to explain something here. The area in 2006 looked very different from the 2017 image you're seeing. At that time, there was no movie theater in the mall, and there was no exit next to it. At the time of the incident in 2006, only a portion of the shopping mall was operational. Only the bar on the second floor and a few shops were open. The other areas were still under construction or vacant, and the only way to enter or exit the mall at that time was through the main entrance by the escalator. If you enter or exit from here, you will definitely be caught by the mall's surveillance cameras. However, in reality, the cameras only recorded him entering, not leaving the mall that day. Theoretically, Brian could have walked through an unopened construction area and exited the building through the building's construction hallway. This passage was not monitored by surveillance cameras and was typically used by construction workers during the day. At night, the construction area was unlit, pitch black. You wouldn't be able to see the path clearly. There were also clear no trespassing signs posted around the construction area. Under normal circumstances, people wouldn't enter that area after seeing those signs. However, the police used sniffer dogs to search and found no evidence suggesting that Brian had passed through the construction area and exited the building. Columbus is the most surveilled area in all of Ohio. The police searched nearby streets and collected surveillance footage from other businesses, but they found no trace of Brian. The police also interviewed Brian's friends and family, asking them all sorts of difficult questions about his relationships, temperament, and any unusual behavior he had exhibited recently. They even asked about drugs, enemies, and vulnerabilities. It turned out that his mother had died of bone cancer 4 weeks earlier, which had left Brian devastated. However, his girlfriend said that during their phone call on Friday night, she didn't think his mood was unusual. The 2 friends who were with him that night also thought he seemed normal and okay. The police also checked hospitals and homeless shelters. They followed tips and hunches to landfills and riverbanks. They even persuaded the city to check nearby sewer lines. But no one found anything. His cell phone, credit cards, and bank accounts remained unused after his disappearance. Those involved began to lose hope that he might still be alive. To this day, there has been no news of him. Discussions about the case continue online, with people putting forward various theories. Theory 1. The bartenders. This theory suggests that Brian was inside the bar at the time and accidentally died from excessive drinking. The bar staff, fearing responsibility, hid his body somewhere in the staff area and then disposed of it. This could explain why the mall surveillance cameras didn't capture Brian leaving, because he never did. He remained inside the building, concealed in an area accessible only to bar staff. Although the bar closed that night, there were still some patrons inside. If something had happened to him, those people would have seen it. Furthermore, if a customer collapses in a bar, the first reaction would be to call the police. However, one scenario makes this theory plausible. Brian's death wasn't accidental. Instead, he might have offended someone in the bar and was murdered by a bartender. Or a bar employee could have been ordered by someone else to harm him and then hide the body in a secret location.
Theory 2. Construction site accident. This theory proposes that Brian was so intoxicated that he couldn't think rationally. He had drunk too much and wanted to vomit somewhere private. The construction area inside the mall seemed like a good spot. It was around 2 a.m. and the construction area was completely dark. He got lost after entering, forgetting where he came in and unable to find his way out. Intoxicated and disoriented, he stumbled around the area and accidentally fell into a deep pit, losing consciousness. No one would have thought to look for him there. The mall was under heavy construction during those days. The workers were unaware of what happened, so they filled the pits with cement during their daytime work, burying Brian. By the time the police were called on Monday, it was too late. That's why when the police brought the dogs to the construction area, they seemed to find some trace of Brian inside the building. He hadn't left. Theory 3. Clint was the perpetrator. After Brian's disappearance, Clint's various actions aroused suspicion. He went drinking with Brian, changed locations, and then called Meredith to join them, as if creating an alibi. After some investigation, the police ordered both Clint and Meredith to take a lie detector test to increase the credibility of their statements. Upon learning of this request, Meredith readily agreed to the police test, but Clint unexpectedly refused. He believed he had told everything he knew and that a lie detector test was unnecessary. He hired a lawyer to protect his rights to the fullest extent and refused to cooperate further with the police. A month after Brian's disappearance, Clint moved from Ohio to Tennessee, getting away from the turmoil. He was fed up with being hounded by the media and didn't want to live like that anymore. Consequently, he also changed his name. Originally Clint Florence, he changed it to William Florence. He also cut off contact with Brian's family. While Clint's behavior was suspicious, his actions were also understandable. He simply didn't want to be bothered by the media's baseless accusations. The key point is, if he was lying, everything would have to match the surveillance footage. Brian was last seen on surveillance footage at 1:55 a.m. Clint and his friend left the mall at 2:09 a.m. Within just 14 minutes, Clint couldn't have murdered and disposed of Brian without being seen by anyone. Therefore, despite Clint's unwillingness to cooperate with the police investigation, they gradually eliminated him as a suspect. Besides the theories mentioned above, many other theories circulated. One was the smiley face killer's theory.
This is a group of criminals who target men they perceive as privileged. Many believed Brian was targeted by them and disposed of in a river. Indeed, there's a river that flows south through Columbus near the bar. Brian's father later consulted a psychic. The psychic claimed that his son was underwater near a bridge pillar. The police dispatched special personnel to search downstream in nearby rivers, but nothing was found. Another theory is that the area around the bar had a high crime rate. Brian walked through the construction area that night and left the mall intoxicated. Unfortunately, he might have offended some gangsters along the way, leading to an unforeseen incident. Of course, any theory is possible until the truth is revealed. However, the investigation couldn't progress based solely on reasoning and assumptions without supporting evidence. Brian's father continuously pleaded with the media, speaking openly with reporters and crying on camera. He plastered missing posters all over the city walls and organized prayer vigils and searches. He even went so far to meet Eddie Vedder, the lead singer of Pearl Jam.
He begged the singer to take time during a concert to talk about the disappearance between songs, urging people to come forward with any information about his son, or pleading with Brian himself to come home if you're alive. On the evening of September 14, 2008, a storm ripped through central Ohio and Randy's backyard. His body was found the next day. Many believe the accident occurred while he was trying to clean up debris when a strong gust of wind cracked a nearby tree. The fate of Brian's family was truly tragic, especially for his father, Randy. He lost his wife to a severe illness, his son a month later, and then met with his own unfortunate end 2 years after that. He could only lament his ill fate and cherish his actions. The only surviving member of the family is Brian's younger brother. He's remained mostly silent since his father's death. Friends say he needs a break from the pain. He wants closure to the whole story, even if it's not a happy one. But he doesn't know what to do or where to start. It's been 17 years now, and there's still no news of Brian. The case remains unsolved. Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, has since married, but she hasn't forgotten him. Her husband supports her continued search for Brian. She even created a website dedicated to finding him. The website URL is findbrianshaffer.com. But for some reason, it's currently inaccessible. So where did Brian go? Is he still alive? Which theory do you support? Let us know your thoughts below. Today's video ends here. Goodbye.